Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for June 11th, 2018. First, welcome back and thank you for your patience over the last couple of weeks. For those who don't follow me on Minds, I've had a bit of computer trouble over the last 2 weeks. I won't bore you with the details, but suffice to say I ended up buying a new computer. Of course, there were issues with that as well because nothing's ever easy, but I've got what is at least a workable solution for the time being. The good news is, the computer is much better than the old one, so I've been looking into different and better animation software. The bad news is, the ones I like are either extremely complicated and will take quite a while to learn to use, or very expensive, so I can't afford them right now. We'll work something out going forward, but for now, I'll be sticking with what I've got. Anyway, all that out of the way, let's jump back into Crazy Town and see how much farther off the rails they've gone. Feminist Course questions if science can be objective. Let me guess where this is going. Because the first two laws of thermodynamics were written by white guys, the laws aren't true. They are social constructs used to keep people of color down. Oh wait, no, that was gravity. Newton made up the law of gravity just to convince the Africans that they couldn't flap their arms and fly to the moon because white people were inferior and couldn't do it. If he hadn't stopped them with a socially constructed universal force, by George, they'd have space colonies scattered all across the cosmos by now. Hobart and Williams Smith colleges will offer a feminist theory course next year that questions whether science can truly be objective. Philosophy 250, Feminism, Ethics, and Knowledge, is a sophomore-level course taught by Karen Frost Arnold, a philosophy professor who also teaches classes such as Power, Privilege, and Knowledge, as well as Introduction to Women's Studies. With a list of credits like that, I'm not so sure I'd call what she teaches knowledge. This course examines various feminist critiques of traditional approaches to ethics and to knowledge, explains the course description, noting that the first half of the class will cover morality, while the latter half of the course focuses on epistemology. You know, I keep hearing the feminist and SJW types use this word, and once again, I'm not convinced they actually understand what this word really means. Or rather, they're twisting it to mean something that it doesn't anyway. So first, here's the definition. Epistemology, the theory of knowledge, especially with regard to its methods, validity, and scope. Epistemology is the investigation of what distinguishes justified belief from opinion. Now there's a key phrase here that I think they're misunderstanding. Justified belief. This means a belief based upon some actual truth. What it does not mean is some shit I made up and then justified with some other shit I made up. Since I mentioned gravity before, let's use that as our example. Newton, and the rest of us, base our belief in gravity on observable reality. Drop something and you can see it fall. Observe through a telescope and you can observe the behavior of the cosmos. The law of gravity is used to explain something that we see happening all around us. It's a description of reality. Now we cannot see gravity. It's a force and therefore invisible, but we can see its effects. Like the wind, you can't see the air moving, but you can see the effect it has on other objects. Now let's contrast that with how these feminist types are using that word. Let's use privilege as an example. Privilege theory is a belief that some people get farther in life because they have inherent privilege due to their race, sex, sexuality, whatever. And they base this belief on what they observe. That is, white men in positions of power. The problem here is that you have assigned a cause which is not observable. Well, in most Western societies anyway. Did Bill Gates become phenomenally rich because he's a straight white male? No. He became filthy stinking rich because he was a shrewd businessman. Is this an inherent trait of straight white men? No. Observable fact. There are far more straight white men who are not wealthy businessmen than those who are. So how does your theory account for that if straight white men are inherently privileged? On the other side of observing reality, we have Oprah Winfrey. She's neither white nor male, and yet she has managed to acquire phenomenal wealth as well. This simply could not happen in a so-called white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, now could it? True white supremacy would have prevented it. True patriarchy would have prevented it. The capitalist part is why it happened. Oprah found a market for her product and capitalized on it. In her case, the product was herself entertaining others, but same principle applies. So your belief in this privilege shit is unjustified. You've justified it with bullshit, not observable, provable fact. Your belief isn't knowledge, it's opinion, which means everything else you base off that belief is the same. Opinion, not knowledge. A house of cards on a foundation of sand. It will fall at the slightest breeze. Historically, how has science contributed to the subordination of women, the course description asks. Nope. Done. Fuck off. Do you think men invented vacuum cleaners, washing machines, dishwashers, microwaves, telephones, computers, etc., all to oppress women? Or is it possible that much of that shit was invented to make your life easier? I mean, imagine, if you will, 1901 America. And Britain, too, actually. In one of those weird twists, an American and a Brit both independently invented the same thing. But let's just go with the American because, well, fuck you, it's my show and I'll pick who I want. Mr. David Kenny was sitting around his patriarchal house watching his oppressed wife sweep the floor with a broom. She's toiling away and probably sweating to death, as they didn't have AC then either, and he thinks to himself, you know what would really keep that bitch down? A machine that does all the work for her. Ha-ha! The vacuum cleaner was born, and he ran off to the patriarchy meeting to share his evil triumph with his mates as she now swept the floors with minimal effort in a fraction of the time. Take that, women! Science has been used for thousands of years to improve our lives. The invention of the wheel wasn't done to oppress anyone. It was done to make their lives easier. The use of the wheel in military equipment later on to invade and colonize other places is not the reason it was invented. The invention of gunpowder was used to amuse people. That it later became a weapon to kill is not the reason it was invented. The invention of dynamite was used to make the mining of minerals and ores easier. That it later was used as a weapon is not the reason it was invented. On and on we can go, back as far as you like. The bow and arrow was invented to make hunting game to feed people easier. That it later became a weapon is not the reason it was invented. In short, science isn't done to subordinate anyone. It's done to make lives easier, both men and women. What that science is used for after does not make the science evil or oppressive, and it certainly doesn't make it subjective. The science is still true whether you like how it's used or not. Are social and political considerations relevant to science? Yes. Let's take radar, for example. In 1935, Sir Robert Watson Watt saw a problem. Nazi Germany was on the rise. The Luftwaffe posed a very significant threat to Britain. Through science, he invented the radar, and Britain installed a series of them to assist in locating and engaging incoming enemy aircraft. Would he have bothered to investigate this technology if that political problem did not exist? Likely not. Most of the time, we use science to solve the problems before us. Without a problem, there's no need for a solution. Is it possible for science to be objective? Yes. As I've kind of already pointed out, science itself is objective. The trouble for you is that you spend too much time in the so-called social sciences. These soft sciences are not objective. By their very nature, they are subjective because there simply is no objective answer to the questions they seek to answer. Why is Sally over there not running a Fortune 500 company? Could be any number of reasons, including that she simply doesn't want to. But instead, you've decided that you know the objective truth. She can't because patriarchy. Men will not allow it to happen, which is objectively not the truth, by the way. What you're doing is not science. It's bullshit, and I've babbled on for too long with this one already, so I'm not going to waste any more time on you. What's next, Bob? Course claims objectivity is a white mythology. Is anyone else sensing a theme here? Hobart and William Smith Colleges is offering a course next year to teach students how objectivity and meritocracy function as white mythologies. Wait, this is the same school as the last one. What the fuck is going on at Hobart and William Smith College? I knew New York was fucked, but I'd optimistically assumed that was in large part because of the city, not the whole damn state. What are they trying to give Californistan a run for their money or something? Race to the bottom, see which one can destroy Western civilization faster? White Mythologies, Objectivity, Meritocracy, and Other Social Constructions is a sophomore-level course taught by Kendrelyn Freeman and Jason Rodriguez, who are sociology and anthropology professors respectively. This course explores the history and ongoing manifestations of white mythologies, along with standing, often implicit views about the place of white, male, Euro-American subjects as the norm, explains the course description, which adds that students will also explore how systematic logics that position the West and whiteness as the ideal manifest through social constructions as objectivity, meritocracy, and race. Alright, first of all, white is not the ideal. If it were, white women wouldn't be wasting a fuck ton of money at tanning salons to appear darker. Secondly, the West, in this context, is a set of ideas, not a location. And the set of ideas that define the West as a culture are very much not about race. Freedom of choice, freedom of speech and expression, the freedom to succeed or fail on your own merit, these are the things, well, some of the things that define the West as a culture. Not skin color. If the West is so intolerant and so oppressive to everyone except white men, why on earth are so many Africans, Asians, South Americans, etc. desperately trying to get here? Did someone forget to tell them that the West absolutely hates them because they're the wrong color? Did someone not tell them that they will be enslaved to the white man forever when they come here? Thank God you're around to enlighten them, huh? I mean, it might have been better if you'd told them before they got here and fell victim to a lifetime of oppression under the boot heels of the evil white man. Could have saved them a whole lot of grief if you'd told them to just stay in Ghana or Rwanda or Guatemala or wherever else they're coming from. Evidently, they're coming to the worst places imaginable, huh? If only they'd known. Though neither Freeman or Rodriguez responded to a request for more information from Campus Reform, both professors have worked together for a few years, and notably co-authored an article in the Journal of Whiteness and Education together. In that article, Freeman and Rodriguez argue that despite the good intentions of white students and community members, calls for intersectionality and diversity on campus may actually derail dialogue about racism and inadvertently recenter whiteness. They also contend that efforts to increase minority representation on college campuses may actually promote white privilege as well, since those diversity efforts are often couched in neoliberal sloganeering as opposed to an acknowledgement that racism still exists. Oh, Lord. So I guess even the intersectional crazies are white supremacists now. Go figure. All these quotas for diversity, special grants and scholarships just for people of color, all the classes about evil whites and how they oppress literally everyone, even though they're apparently inferior to every other culture to ever exist. Yeah, that's all white supremacy holding the black man down. I tell you, I definitely took the wrong route in life. I might have taken these classes if only I'd known that someone would give me a well-paid job to sit behind a desk, make up utter bullshit, and pass it off as academic work. Well, live and learn, I guess. Who's next on the crazy pile, Bob? Professor details barrage of microaggressions from white colleagues. Oh yeah, this should be good. Another cupcake from the Sarkeesian school of thought.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
A Marquette University professor says she keeps a diary of everyday microaggressions to help her overcome her own whiteness in order to recognize racism. Right, so you're a self-loathing racist. Got it. Some years ago, I began recording everyday microaggressions toward learning to recognize racism, which is so often coded and which whiteness had taught me not to see, Professor Beth Godby writes in a May 3rd post on her personal blog. Whiteness taught you this, huh? I have to say, this whiteness you folks blather on about is a truly terrifying force. It's an evil, all-powerful, omnipresent, all-knowing, undetected thing that infects us all to the detriment of all mankind. Thank God we have all these liberal arts majors around to warn us about it, huh? Imagine the terror we'd all suffer if these folks weren't here to inform us all how racist we are. I mean, we might just ignore race altogether and finally start getting along. Godby explains that the idea emerged from conversations with colleagues of color who related that white colleagues often failed to believe their experiences, leading her to devise the project as a means of countering epistemic injustice, which she defines as the problem of prejudice resulting in marginalized peoples not being believed about their own experiences. Postmodern woo for listen and believe, but do go on. For context, Godby links a 2017 post in which she notes that microaggressions can take one of three forms: a verbal or nonverbal attack, microassault, insulting messages, rudeness, or other insensitivity, microinsult, and interactions or communication that excludes, hides, makes invisible, or otherwise invalidate people or their experiences, microinvalidation. Okay, hold on. One at a time here. Verbal or nonverbal attack is a microassault. In other words, you're a racist when you call a person of color an idiot. Whether they are or not is irrelevant. Calling them anything at all is being racist. That's a bit broad, wouldn't you say? I mean, suppose there's a black woman convicted of molesting the neighbor's kid. Am I now racist for calling her a piece of shit just because she's black? No. So you can fuck off with this one. Insulting messages, rudeness, or other insensitivity is a micro-insult. I prefer outright insults myself, but now apparently Miss Manners here has decided that I have to be nice to literally every single black person on the planet, or I'm a racist. Disliking one, being rude to one, or not always placing their skin color first and foremost in my mind is racist? Okay, pretty sure that's ass backwards, but if you say so. Apparently, being racist is the new anti-racist. Go figure. And interactions or communication that doesn't specifically mention people of color, or failure to listen and believe simply because of their skin color, somehow invalidates them. Because the very notion of having a conversation with anyone, anywhere, at any time, without mentioning black people, is pretending they don't exist? You must be an absolute delight to talk to. Hi, Beth. Cute cat. Is it new?
Yes, just got her. But you know, black people couldn't own a cat in the 19th century America because they were all slaves, even the ones still in Africa. Slavery oppressed every single black person ever born, and every single black person yet to be born, because white supremacy, indeed, the very concept of whiteness at all, is inherently...
Goodbye, Beth. Let's not talk again soon. Toxic masculinity time, Bob. Mom stabbed son, 6, multiple times, said he deserved it, court papers say. An Oregon mother told police her 6-year-old son deserved it after she used a knife to inflict life-threatening injuries on the boy at their Newport apartment Saturday, court documents said. Nemora Lynn, I'm not even going to try that, 34, appeared in court Tuesday on charges of attempted murder, aggravated attempted murder, 3 counts of assault, and criminal mistreatment. The boy was initially fighting for his life, Danielle Stringer, the boy's aunt, told Fox 12 Oregon. He suffered 6 stab wounds to his body, one of which possibly struck his liver and lung, and a deep cut to his chin. The 6-year-old showed up on a neighbor's doorstep Saturday covered in blood and told them his mother had stabbed him, Newport police said. The neighbors immediately called police and gave the boy aid until paramedics arrived. Police searched the apartment and found a large amount of blood in the living room and a 14-month-old child in a bedroom, a news release said. Both Villagomez and the baby had blood on them. The Department of Human Services took custody of the infant after he was examined and cleared at a hospital. Detectives interviewed Villagomez, who admitted to cutting her son and said he deserved it, according to court documents. Of course he did. He may only be 6, but patriarchy starts early. I'm sure he was oppressing her somehow. Probably asking for a cookie because, men. Such entitled little bastards always making demands. Gotta get in there when they're still young and show them how strong independent women are by stabbing them multiple times. Trust me, when he gets to college, he'll know to respect the women now. Police gave an update Tuesday saying the 6-year-old boy was in good condition and would soon be released from the hospital. The mother had previously been convicted of 4th-degree assault in November 2016 and sentenced to 30 days in jail, 5 years probation, the Oregonian reported, citing court documents. Sounds like another system failure to me. Why does she still have custody of 2 kids at all? Are you telling me that she was the best guardian a court thought those kids could get? Their father, both sets of grandparents, even foster care were all worse options than a violent cunt with a history of lashing out? And where is Child Protective Services anyway? There is no fucking way this was the first time she abused that kid. No way. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I sure hope there's a special place in hell just for child abusers. In the meantime, prison sounds like an appropriate place for them, with cellmates who will treat them just like they treat kids. Some of the most despicable people to ever walk the earth, in my opinion. The weak preying on the weaker so they can feel strong. It's... Give me something funny, Bob, before I get too pissed off. Gun flying through the air lodges itself in car's bumper, authorities say. Okay, well, maybe we do have a gun problem in America if they're just falling out of the clear blue sky. A driver in Washington state made a surprising discovery when he found a gun wedged in his car's front bumper, authorities said Thursday. The driver was on Interstate 5 when they noticed a small black object flying through the air, the Washington State Patrol said on Facebook. According to Trooper Guy Gill, the man ultimately kept driving for about 18 miles until pulling over to get some gas, where he discovered the weapon lodged into his bumper just below the car's headlight. Troopers removed the firearm and turned it over to Lakewood Police Department, according to the State Patrol's Facebook. We're glad the driver and everyone else on the road was okay. The gun was missing its magazine, Gill told the Associated Press, adding that it was a completely bizarre way to recover a weapon. It reportedly wasn't clear to the driver where the gun had come from, but Lakewood Police Lieutenant Chris Lawler said the department was working to determine whether it was connected to a nearby fight where shots were fired. Well, likely used in some crime anyway. Kind of hard to tell from the pictures, but the shape of the slide is very similar to mine, which makes me think it's likely a Smith & Wesson. I can't tell what caliber, but most common it's 9mm. If that's what it is, you're not going to find random people running around chucking those things out the window. That's not a cheap gun. They run in the $400 to $700 range. Your average street criminal or gang member isn't going to spend that kind of money on a throwaway. I don't live in Washington, so I'm not all that familiar with their gun laws, but most likely it's not registered. Can't imagine anyone dumb enough to use their registered gun in a crime, then chuck it out the window. Although I guess you could then claim it was stolen when it eventually leads back to you, so you never know. I just thought the headline was kind of funny. Today's forecast, cloudy with a chance of guns. Only in America. That's it for this week. Remember the SJW mantra, women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.